Imagine this. You wake up late. Sunlight already spilling through your curtains, the day half gone before it has even begun. The weight in your chest feels heavier than your body. You scroll aimlessly, your thumb twitching on autopilot, flipping through fragments of other people's lives. A silent voice inside whispers that you should be doing something, anything. But the voice has no direction, only accusation. Hours vanish, and at night, when the world goes quiet, guilt takes its seat beside you like a shadow you cannot shake. You call it laziness. But is it? What if laziness isn't real? At least not in the way you've been taught. What if what you name laziness is not a defect of willpower, but a symptom of being unmoored, directionless and disoriented in a world that has fractured meaning into dust? You're not failing because you're weak. You're stumbling because you're lost. Pause here. Isn't it strange? We live in a society that worships productivity like a god. You are measured not by who you are, but by what you produce. Hours, tasks, outputs, achievements. This becomes the scoreboard of your worth. And yet, in the quiet recesses of your mind, you sense something profoundly wrong with this arithmetic. Why can you work furiously for a week and feel empty, while one fleeting moment of true alignment, a conversation, a walk, a spark of purpose, fills you with more vitality than months of effort? What if what you feel is not sloth, but disconnection? What if the lethargy is not an absence of energy, but a misalignment of direction? Imagine being a compass without a north. You spin endlessly until dizziness masquerades as stillness. To outsiders, it looks like you've collapsed into inactivity. But inside, you are suffocating under the invisible pressure of not knowing where to move. And ask yourself, how many times have you whispered, "I'll start tomorrow"? How many times have you blamed yourself for lack of discipline when the truth was far darker? You didn't know what deserved your discipline in the first place? How can you pour energy into a life that feels alien, or into goals that were never yours to begin with? Think deeper. Could it be that laziness is not the opposite of ambition, but the silent rebellion of your psyche against meaningless ambition? Perhaps what you call procrastination is your soul's protest against spending your one brief life climbing ladders that lean against the wrong walls. Carl Jung once wrote, "The soul has its own secret destiny. The only meaningful life is the life that strives for the individual realization, absolute and unconditional." If Jung is right, then the heaviness you feel is not because you lack discipline. It is because you lack a destination that resonates with your inner truth. You're not lazy. You are lost in the wilderness of your own unclaimed purpose. Imagine standing at a crossroads in a fog so thick you cannot see a step ahead. Would you sprint forward? Would you run with enthusiasm into the unknown? No, you would stop, hesitate, delay. To the onlooker, it looks like paralysis, but what it really is lostness. Now, pause again. If this is true, then the very question shifts. Instead of "why am I so lazy?" the question becomes, "where have I lost the thread of meaning?" Instead of asking, "how do I fix my discipline?" you must ask, "what is my discipline serving?" And here lies the great question, the one that rattles quietly in the back of your mind, but rarely makes it to words. What if the endless guilt of laziness is not a problem to fix, but a message to decode? A message from the deepest part of your psyche saying, "This is not the path. There is another way." Would you still call yourself lazy if you knew your inaction was the smoke signal of a soul misaligned? Would you still beat yourself into productivity if you realized the cage wasn't your willpower, but the absence of direction? This is where the tension sharpens. Because if laziness is really lostness, then the problem is not about how much energy you have, but about whether your life is pointed at something worth spending it on. And this leads us to the next revelation. The roots of this disconnection, buried deep in psychology, philosophy, and the architecture of modern society itself. Why are so many of us lost, wandering with no north? Why do we mistake this for laziness, when it is something far more haunting? If being lost has been mislabeled as laziness, then the solution is not to whip yourself into harder work. It is to rebel, to tear apart the narrative that chains you, to refuse the false diagnosis and instead declare, I am not lazy, I am searching. Look at history. Those who broke free were rarely those who simply worked harder within the system. They were the ones who rejected the system's definitions entirely. Socrates, condemned for corrupting the youth, refused to stop questioning. Galileo, punished by the church, insisted on seeing truth with his own eyes. Viktor Frankl, enduring the camps, held onto a meaning that no whip could erase. Their rebellion was not against their own energy. It was against false maps. You too must rebel against false maps. The one that says career is everything. The one that says money is worth more than soul. The one that says efficiency equals worth. Burn them. Watch them turn to ash. And in the silence that follows, listen for the faint pulse of your own North Star. Start small. Write the thing you've been afraid to write. Call the silence sacred instead of wasted time. Walk without a destination and see what thoughts rise. These are acts of rebellion against a system that demands constant output. Because every act of stillness, every refusal to mislabel your searching as laziness, is a reclaiming of your humanity. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Rebellion means dragging into light the parts of you that have been buried, the shadow, the unlived desires, the neglected creativity. You are not lazy for wanting more than your assigned role. You are rebelling against fate by choosing consciousness. Now, picture this. Imagine waking tomorrow and refusing to use the word lazy ever again. Imagine replacing it with a lost. Instead of saying, I am lazy, you say, I have not yet found my north. Feel how the weight shifts. Feel how possibility re-enters the room. Suddenly, instead of being defective, you are a seeker. Instead of being broken, you are on a journey. That shift is rebellion, and it changes everything. But rebellion alone is not enough. Once you see the false map, once you set fire to illusions, once you redirect discipline, you must go deeper. For there is a final realization waiting, an ultimate truth that does not just free you from laziness, but from the very illusions that created it in the first place. And that truth will change not just how you see yourself, but how you see the entire human condition. Here is the ultimate truth, the one that waits beneath every layer of guilt, every accusation of laziness, every night you've spent staring at a ceiling, wondering why you can't just do it. You were never meant to run endlessly in circles of productivity. You were never broken for hesitating to serve meaningless goals. The paralysis you call laziness is not your enemy. It is your soul's last defense against living a life that does not belong to you. Imagine it. Every time you sat frozen, every time you avoided the assignment, the job, the relationship that felt like death in disguise, it wasn't weakness. It was survival. A quiet rebellion of your deeper self saying, no, not this. You misread the signal. You thought it meant you lacked worth. But what if it meant you still had enough dignity not to sell yourself to the wrong path? The truth is this: you are not lazy. You are searching for meaning. And until you find it, your energy will resist being wasted on the counterfeit. This is the ultimate truth. You were never lazy. You were only waiting for your life to belong to you. And when it does, when you finally align with meaning, the guilt will vanish like smoke. The chains will fall. The word lazy will become foreign to you. In its place, you will see clearly. You were not broken. You were being called. And so the paradox resolves. Laziness was never laziness. It was lostness. Lostness was never failure. It was the threshold of transformation. And transformation was always your destiny. The woman who knows her worth that doesn't chase, she chooses. The man who finds his north doesn't drag himself forward. He is carried. And you, yes, you, are not lazy. You are lost, and soon you will be found.